What's going on, everybody? This is the blockchain backer bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Welcome to a new week as cryptocurrency market continues to range where we've been ranged for the last 13 days for both the Bitcoin price chart and the altcoin market. My suspicion is that this ranging action is set to expire very, very soon because we have a very busy week on deck, and historically, these events have led to tremendous volatility in both the stock market, and then that translates over into the cryptocurrency market as well. So for the last couple of weeks, the discussion has been about a ranging context. We've now been here for almost 2 weeks at this point. It does seem like we're kind of reaching the point of where it would be appropriate for a bigger move to show up. And then there are multiple events that typically do trigger this to occur. So what do we have on deck? Tomorrow, we're going to be getting the released data for CPI, or Consumer Price Index. These will all be released early in the morning, so before the markets actually open. So we would expect to see volatility starting right out the gates with CPI data release. Then also tomorrow, we have the SBF hearing in front of Congress. I do not know if this will be virtual or if this will be in person. According to articles I've read, it says don't expect him to be there in person, expect him to be virtual. According to Braden Perry, a former senior trial attorney for the U.S. Commodity Futures Trading Commission, told Market Watch, I don't expect to see SBF stepping on U.S. soil anytime soon, likely due to risk of being taken into custody. It's up for debate on whether or not this will have any actual impact on markets. However, when looking at CPI, which is tomorrow, according to Yahoo Finance, over the past 6 months, the S&P 500 has seen an average move of about 3% in either direction on the day CPI has been released. So not only is everybody looking for this tomorrow with the hearing with SBF in Congress, but on average, when this data gets released, we see a 3% move in the S&P. Big moves in the stock market tend to be big moves in the crypto market as well. And that's just tomorrow. The next day, Wednesday, we have the Fed meeting where they're supposed to do the interest rate hike. Market suspects 50 basis points. We spent last week discussing about where the current yields are for treasuries right now. A 50 basis points rate hike gets us in line with the 2-year treasury yield for the first time during the whole rate hike cycle. In addition, the 10-year is actually below the current federal funds rate, and this would put us further away from the 10-year. So all eyes will be on what Jerome Powell has to say after that rate hike happens. Where do they go from there? As we've discussed with past rate hike days, we tend to see volatile moves of 3% and 4% in the stock market, both on the day of the Fed rate hike and the day after. So as I record this today, I'm going to suspect this is probably the last day we sit here in this range coiled like this, like we have been for the last 13, 14 days. We're probably going to see a break happen. And the interesting thing about these breaks is when they happen on these particular news events, many times the first initial direction that it does break is actually not the direction it's going to go. So I hope you've enjoyed your last 2 weeks of just kind of chilling as prices sit here, because I think by the time we get to Friday, we're going to be completely exhausted, because it hasn't just been Bitcoin stuck in a range, it's been the altcoin market stuck in the exact same range as well. And so I would guess we would see the whole market doing big moves. So not only would we see price action, we'd see lots of narratives happen. And it's not just CPI, SBF, and the Fed meeting. If you've been on Twitter or on YouTube at all throughout the weekend, you may have seen this clip from Charles Hoskinson.
People win, sometimes people don't. I've heard rumors that the Ripple case will be settled December 15th, and we'll just see. And that could have catastrophic implications for the industry, one way or the other. But, you just keep moving forward.
Now, Eleanor Tourette over there from Fox Business News did comment on this and say our sources close to the case say there's no truth to December 15th rumor, as they did with the November 15th one. If you may remember, back in November, Fox Business News had a segment with a crypto influencer on there discussing the settlement that was impending for the next day that never ended up occurring. It was very odd that they even had that happening there. It's also odd that Charles seems to have this rumor or knowledge beyond anybody else, but appears that there's nothing to it. But of course, a lot of people talking about it, a lot of people waiting December 15th. So on the 13th, you have CPI and SPF. The 14th, You have Fed rate hikes. And then the 15th, this rumor swirling about the Ripple settlement, which would have impacts throughout the whole market. That's just a rumor. We'll see if there's anything to it. It's really just Charles talking and everybody running with it. But I'm optimistic this may be our moment where we finally start to get to move our way upwards. As we've discussed with the altcoin market, the accumulation schematic, the spring phase coming in for the final crushing blow. We've shown how these can play out in the past. We showed the whole phases of these accumulation schematics and how we've done the same thing in here to even back test, go off, and then just grind and go into spring, grind and go into spring. And these final endings in here, how those can happen. Even here in Bitcoin, we have the classic 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then you just have your grind out happening in here before it can finally start working its way up to get itself a sign of strength and start to actually break out. We've just been in that phase of boredom afterwards, but we have a series of events coming that typically put an end to that. So we've had all of our phases happen in here, everything to having our new low in the altcoin market. Now we've been in the boring ranging phase. I've shown examples throughout the last weeks where these ranges can just go on for a long time. And maybe it still will. However, when you have this many events that typically trigger massive volatility, we could be on the cusp of that break happening just in the next couple of days. So that's what my eyes are watching for. I'm going to actually keep this video relatively brief because nothing has changed in regards to a ranging context. But what we do have over the course of the next 72 hours are a series of events that typically trigger massive amounts of volatility. And if there's a time to see if this is right, I would think this is as good of a time as any. So enjoy today, take a big deep breath, and then get ready because it's going to be a roller coaster of chaos for the rest of this week. Some of the elements that are favorable from a macro perspective for the crypto market, it's going to be this dollar, which is still just completely turned over and pummeled. If you remember, for the last couple of months, we had checked this on the Fibonacci's and noticed that as we had gotten here, how reactionary we had been to these levels at this point, that it was indicating to us, look, if there's a time for this thing to actually reverse, it's where we're at. We've gotten there. It's time for it to reverse. It has reversed from there. Obviously, we've dealt with SBF, FTX stuff. It's been the first time we've seen the crypto market deviate away from the stock market. However, that Dow Jones has gotten itself all the way back up to the 702 Fibonacci retracement. So if there's a catch-up play to make, it's there. And the DXY is giving favorable conditions for it to do so. As every time the DXY has gone into bigger falls, this was incredibly optimistic and provided really big runs in the crypto market previously. And there's no question that is a giant knockback that is unlike anything we've seen happen in the parabolic rise for the last year and a half. And even when you look at the technical indicators, you can just see the grind that has taken place here on the weekly time frame, the complete breakdown that has happened here in the DXY, on the relative strength index, on the MACD, on the weekly time frame, and even looking over here at the monthly time frame. This has just been an upward ride. We officially have a big knockdown happen in the DXY, unlike anything that has happened the whole time. So what will this week provide? I think it's going to be the big week. I think it's the interesting week. And with this data coming out early tomorrow morning, get ready. The next video that I release, we will probably have extreme action in the markets. And fingers crossed, it's time to turn this baby around. But all right, that's going to be it for this one, guys. And just kind of a check-in. Nothing really happened throughout the weekend. It's still the ranging context, which is literally what we've talked about for weeks on end, ranging context. But we are now approaching a time where that range can go ahead and break, and we definitely have the events coming up this week that could trigger it. So my best guess, tomorrow morning when a video comes out, we'll be talking about some massive volatility happening already. So I'll be over here on Twitter throughout the rest of the day. I want to thank you so much for watching. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.